Fiona Apple was just a teenager when she released Tidal back in 1996. She was adored by women, even praised as the harbinger of a new age of female singer-songwriters. But then she began to speak out against the music industry, and male critics tore her to pieces. They loved to talk about how sexy she was, but called her pretentious, dramatic, desperate for attention. She was described as wispy, dismissible, self-indulgent, and intolerable. And that's all just from one Rolling Stone article. She was 18. In response, she gave her sophomore album the title, "When the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king, what he knows throws the blows. When he goes to the fight and he'll win the whole thing, 'fore he enters the ring, there's no body to batter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your own hand, and remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you know where to land, and if you fall it won't matter, 'cause you'll know that you're right." Not only is the meaning of the poem a clear middle finger to her critics, it engages with the label of pretension in an exciting way. Great art often reads as a little pretentious. To put art into the world requires a level of ego, because art is always criticized and the ego of the artist acts as a cushion to the pain criticism brings. Fiona Apple, in my opinion, has both the genius and the sense of humor to back up that ego. Men at large didn't share my feelings on this and continued to wax poetic about her looks and her voice, but complain about her high and mighty attitude. Extraordinary Machine came out 6 years later and continued to poke frustrated fun at the way Apple was being treated by the industry. She repeated the process with the idler wheel, all while continuing to make industrious, clever, and moving music. She remained graceful and kept rolling her eyes. She was taken advantage of, in more ways than one, by men in the industry, but she stayed smart and she stayed loud. 8 years go by with Apple releasing no new music. Then, on April 17th, 2020, she drops Fetch the Bolt Cutters, an album explicitly about rape, abuse, shared trauma, and a refusal to silence oneself. That said, it's not everyone's cup of tea. There's no album that appeals to every single person, and that's fine. However, women everywhere, survivors everywhere, resonate with it. It rings in everyone's ears. I'm elated. Many of my friends are elated. It taps into the anger, the frustration, and the resilience of its intended audience, of people who are tired of tolerating our exhaustingly misogynistic society. To me, and to many, it is beautiful. But not to everyone. The music critic Anthony Fantano gave it a 7 out of 10 and overall had few positive things to say about the album. Now, on the surface, that's completely fine. It's his right to feel how he feels. But he missed the point of much of the album. He talks about the song Newspaper, which is about shared trauma and caring for other women hurt by abusers, as if it's about a love triangle. He listens to Shamika without hearing the implications about the difference between compliments and flattery from men and actually feeling respected by other women. He complains about the disjointed sound of the music without realizing that the trauma discussed in the work often results in an incredibly disjointed psyche. He says he is only reviewing the album sonically, but the sound directly and deliberately reflects the content. Good music always contains a balance. A lot of Apple's fans are furious with him. One in particular wrote a long, scathing, and somewhat dramatic comment on his video calling him a misogynist. And it went viral. Fantano's response was to tweet, "Ah, that's what they're for," with a graphic of bolt cutters crunching down on his neck. Hundreds of his largely male fans, who were probably much worse misogynists than Fantano himself, took the opportunity to mock and jeer the women who were upset by his review. It's a classic internet drama clusterfuck, the kind I usually steer clear of, but I found this one particularly frustrating. The reality is, Fantano can feel however he feels about the album, but people are also allowed to disagree with him. This is an album for survivors by a survivor. He is not part of the intended audience, and the people who are part of it share one thing: trauma. The reason Fiona Apple named the album Fetch the Bolt Cutters is because in her world, Bolt cutters represent a means of breaking free from her trauma. Using them as a symbol of crazy women attacking innocent men isn't just offensive, it's a perfect example of what Apple was trying to combat. It's the exact kind of behavior her music is denouncing and frames traumatized women as lunatic aggressors. Fantano can dislike the album, but I wish he had the discretion to handle it with a little more care. This album was a balm to a lot of really grievous wounds, and if he can't be sensitive to that, maybe he shouldn't be discussing it in the first place. Fantano doesn't have to review every album that comes out. He failed to understand the nuances of this particular one, and since he failed, it's my belief that he shouldn't have critiqued it at all. Thank you if you watched this video. Let me know if you'd like to see anything else I have to say. I may continue to make video essays, but I don't think I'll ever touch on anything that could be described as celebrity drama ever again in my life if I can help it. Appreciate you. I don't know. Okay. Bye.